thank those who took the time to come out to our Park District Advantage Workshop. Today we're here to discuss the advantages of a park district for the village of University Park. It seems that there's a lot of misinformation out there, so we're here to educate our residents and give them the facts about what a park district does for the village of University Park. It does not cost us $800,000 as a levy. It says either up to or not to exceed $800,000 as the levy. So thank you guys for coming out. This is an educational forum, and we're going to have some guests come up here and speak, and we're going to start right now from the Illinois Park District Association.
Thank you, Mayor, and it's great to be in the community today. It's good to see community members come out. As the Mayor said, I'm from the Illinois Association of Park Districts. My name's Jason. I think my task, if I understand correctly this morning, is to simply say, what is a park district and how is it created? How is it different maybe than other units of government? So I'll do my best to be succinct in that. At its most basic level, a park district is a separate, independent unit of local government. So it's not part of the county, it's not part of a township, it would not be part of a village. They are governed, park districts in the state of Illinois, by locally elected, nonpartisan, uncompensated, volunteer board members. And so typically those boards are 5 elected commissioners, though the Park District Code does allow the increase to 7. They serve typically 6 years, though the Park District Code also allows that to be reduced to 4 years. The terms after the park districts are formed are staggered so that there's not complete turnover in the board all at one time, and I think that's been a big benefit to park districts over the years. Because park districts are an independent unit of local government, distinct from, again, in this case, the village or the county, that means that whatever investments that the community makes to the park district, whatever assets the park district has, whatever revenues are there, can only be spent on parks and recreation services. Whatever the community decides it wants to pay for, what it values. So one of the things that we've seen, particularly nationally, in other states that don't have park districts, is that oftentimes when there are challenges economically, when we probably should be investing more in our parks and recreation because maybe people can't afford to travel to go other places for recreation, or maybe families need more services in terms of programming. Oftentimes nationally what we see is because villages and counties have a lot of other responsibilities like police and fire and sewer and water, economic development. So during those tough times, when you don't have a park district, sometimes parks and libraries, recreation kind of takes a back seat. And so what a park district does, being an independent unit of government, governed by its own locally elected board, is it's able to protect those investments and assets when a community, frankly, needs them most. The other thing I guess I would say is because counties and villages and cities have all of these other responsibilities, it probably makes it a lot more difficult for them to spend the necessary time to focus on parks and recreation that the community might want. And by having your own locally elected board, I think many communities in the state of Illinois have found that residents have a better opportunity to voice what is it that we want our priorities to be when it comes to parks and recreation. So that, I think, kind of lays out the general framework of what a park district is and kind of the advantage of it in terms of protecting those assets and focusing on specific needs of the community. I can tell you that in the state of Illinois, park districts have been around for over 150 years. There are 363 in the state. They're governed by about more than 2,100 locally elected officials within the state. I can also tell you that of the 363 park districts that are in the state of Illinois, there aren't 2 of them that are alike. They're all very different, and I think that that is a reflection of the fact that they're able to respond to what are our needs within our community. And so we have very large park districts, the Chicago Park District not surprisingly being the largest. There are other very large park districts in the state that employ thousands of people. We have park districts in the state of Illinois that don't employ a single person. They are a volunteer board. They may manage a park and provide 1 or 2 recreational programs. So it really is what a community decides it needs and that it's willing to pay for, and what it wants. I would say that most park districts in the state of Illinois are responsible for maintaining and managing and overseeing whatever local parks are within the community. I would say that most provide some form of recreational programming, but that varies widely depending upon maybe the demographics of the community. If there are a lot of seniors in the community, the priority might be on senior services. If there are a lot of youth in the community, you might see more after-school and summer programming. Some park districts do cultural arts and all sorts of different programming. And it really is based, I think, on what the elected board hears back from its residents. Park districts have been very successful in the state. We've done statewide studies. They are, sorry Mayor, but park districts are the most popular form of government when it comes to citizen satisfaction based on our studies. I think that probably is a reflection of the fact that you're able to focus on parks and recreation and hear back from the community. You know, again, nationally, Illinois is widely recognized as a leader in delivering local parks and recreation. And again, I think that's in large part a reflection of the fact that these locally elected commissioners are able to just stay focused, respond to what the community wants. Having said all that, you know, I can't stand up here and say what's right for the Village of University Park. That's for the residents of the village to decide, and I'm sure that you know they'll come to the right conclusion. I think that's the beauty of the Park District Code, is it does rely on citizen involvement. We have a lot of volunteers. I think park districts probably generate more volunteer hours than any other unit of government. It would surprise me if that's not the case. I just returned last night from an annual awards gala that we have, and it's just always very heartwarming to see we give awards for citizen volunteers, and it just amazes me the amount of hours that citizens are willing to volunteer to improve their community. So you can probably tell I'm passionate about parks. I grew up in a rural area of the state in southern Illinois, and there weren't a lot of parks. Certainly we had ball fields and those kinds of things. It really wasn't until I moved to more urban areas and really gained my own family. I was sharing with a few of you that I've got 4 children, and what I saw when I started having kids is really the power of parks, and getting kids outdoors, getting them, you know, plenty of exercise and involvement and interaction. And I think, you know, parks build community, and I don't know if you experience this here, but certainly you only need to turn on the news to see the divisive nature, I think, of our country, sometimes of our state, and in some of our communities. And what I see whenever I'm out in the parks is not so much division. What I see is that parks bring people together. While that may not, you know, always be the case, I think that's predominantly true. I even see it, I think, more in youth athletics and those kinds of programs that park districts offer in terms of you know, civility than maybe we might see. Certainly we all love competition, so I don't mean to suggest that we don't get excited, but I do think that that's a great advantage. How that's provided within a community is really up to the community, but a park district is one mechanism to do that, and they've been very successful in many communities throughout the state. So, Mayor, I don't want to go on and on, because I could go on and on, but hopefully I've at least explained the legal structure, the difference between a park district and other units of government in terms of the fact that they are independent, have their own locally elected board. I guess the last thing, though, that I should touch on that I didn't, because I do think it's important to understand. I believe the village is home rule, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and so, you know, I don't want to get legally technical. Many of you are probably familiar with what a home rule and non-home rule unit of government is. Home rule units of government have powers beyond what the state gives them. And so I think it's important for you to understand a park district cannot be home rule. All park districts are non-home rule, meaning they only have the powers that the state gives them. And that becomes important when you start talking about taxes, of course. because this district and the village are, well, the district would be subject to the property tax extension limitation law. And so there is no ability to go beyond the restrictions that are in that law. And so, you know, if a referendum were to pass, it would set an upper limit on the amount of taxes that could be collected to support the park district. It's also important to point out park districts can't levy any taxes besides a property tax. So there's no sales tax, there's no ability to do a hotel, motel, or any of the other variety of taxes that are out there. It's simply a small portion of the property tax levy. But that is an upper limit that's set, and then that can only be adjusted by the Consumer Price Index on an annual basis. Now, it's the upper limit because ultimately it's the locally elected board that has to approve the levy every year. And so that board can always go lower than what this maximum amount is, and that they would have to, you know, that would be something that they'd have to respond to the community because there would be elections every couple of years. So. So I think that is an important point to make. I think I've addressed all that I intended to, Mayor, unless there's any further information I can provide.
Maybe someone may have a question or something?
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Jewel Thompson.
Hi, Jewel.
How much does it cost to start up a library? Because I know that I mean the park district, I'm sorry, I'm on the library board too.
Okay.
How much does it cost to start up a park district?
Well, again, I'm sorry, Jewel, I can't really, so the question, I don't know if I need to repeat it, I think, was how much does it cost to start up? And that's going to vary based upon what it is that the community wants the park district to do.
Don't you have to have your own money first? You know
Well,
what I mean?
that's what the citizens would say, but I can't tell you, I mean, every park district is, there are park districts in the state of Illinois that levy very little. I think there are a few that don't levy anything at all. They also then can't provide any services because there's no money to do anything. But that is, again, the community would have to decide what it is that we want the park district to do. And obviously, the more that the park district or the community is willing to pay, the more the park district would be able to do for the community. So,
one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
For the mayor too. Okay, so don't we need like an impact study or a feasibility study to find out what the community wants before we start saying we want a park district?
well, there's
Don't we
nothing.
have to define it? Should it be defined?
Well, there's nothing that requires that, and so I don't know. You know, like.
Wouldn't that be a good thing?
Well, I think that depends, because I think that in many cases, until you know that the park district is formed, and again, I know you have some parks within the community. I don't know what the intent is with regard to any of that, or how that would all play out, but that would ultimately be up to, I think, probably electing a board that's responsive. So, you know, I mean, could you do a feasibility study? What would it say? Is it about, do we want more trails? Do we want more swimming facilities? Those kinds of things. I don't know, I could also say, hey, maybe it's better to sort of form the park district and let the first board do the study to figure out. So
I don't mean for services, I mean financial. Well, I can ask the mayor, wouldn't it be better for the board to find out by doing a study if it's financially practical for us at this time, considering our financial state, to have a park district which is going to burden taxpayers and even renters?
Well, I'll say this, our intention, and we're going to have a person from financing, from the accounting firm, come up and talk about finances. As we look over the history of the village, when we had a park and recreation department, it was close to $900,000, sometimes $1 million budgeted every single year for a park district. Our intention is to levy $500,000 to get a park district up and going, and let the elected board of park commissioners decide on what services and programs will be in that park district referendum.
Who will elect the board?
The people. It would be just like the library board, just like any other general election. It would be a board, something set up like that, and it's elected by the people. And the same format would basically be like when park and recreation, you'd have that one superintendent, but you would also have people that maintain, like he was saying, maintain the parks and the facilities as well. It would be, yes, it would be separate away from the village. the way it was in Park and Recreation, because the Park and Recreation or a park district would maintain the grass cutting, the snow plowing of all the facilities of the park district and give the municipal government the opportunity to give back constituent services instead of trying to commingle everything.
One more question for the mayor.
Yep.
Don't we have other things we need to do besides burning the taxpayers? And we need to cut down trees. Every time it rains, my street is crumbling. So we have a lot of other things I think we need to do before we spend this money for a park district and burden me, a senior citizen, with higher taxes.
Well, we'll talk about the taxes because remember, I'm a resident with multiple properties here too, so I'm not going to put anything, I'm not going to put a gun to my head and pull the trigger either because I'm concerned about a stable income and the local economy. But we've been absent for so long and the demand is so strong that to sit here with doing nothing at all is just absolutely unacceptable. And this is just a conversation that we're having because it's not a mayor's agenda or a board of trustees agenda.
It's on the ballot.
But we want to hear from the residents. That's why it's on the ballot, to let the public make their decision on what services they want. Because right now we're paying for something that we haven't gotten since 2017, which is a park and recreation facility or services, and we have nothing. And I applaud the efforts of all the people who take on the task of running a baseball or basketball or football programs. But there's so much more absent because when you look at the numbers, Ms. Thompson, that you see our library is a great library, but we don't have the usage according to percentages. Maybe 15 to 17% of our residents utilize the services of the library. Over 30% of our residents go next door to Creek Park District and utilize their services. Over 50% of our residents have some type of gym membership that they take outside the community, and our senior citizens do line dancing and aerobics and exercise and computer training all outside the community.
And the library offers all that.
Okay, I understand. Yes, Ms. Taylor.
Yeah, first of all, I'm sorry that I'm late. So good morning to everybody. And I only have a little while to stay because as you're talking about the library, I'm going to promote today's activity. Yes, I'm giving a promotion.
Absolutely.
For the fact that we are actually reaching out to the community because we have been in a pandemic and people want to know why we did this fitness and fun day, because it was not only for physical health, but it was also for something to offer for emotional health for our community. So I just wanted to let people know that. So if anyone wants to come out, including this board, who basically we don't see when you say 15%, are any of you guys a part of the 15% that comes and does activities with our library? When we have something, perhaps I would invite you into the 15%, which would increase our percentage. Now, moving on to priorities, I really don't have a problem with the park district. However, when you say what the people are asking for, the people have been asking for a necessity of food in a food desert. So when you want to talk about prioritizing things, a priority on the top of that list would be, especially since we had a pandemic where we had to go out and utilize services for food, adequate food from other communities. A priority would be putting that on the top of the list. And to me, that's a necessity. And these other things, like that, yes, the park district, you want to do that? Fine. But it's not what we would register as a priority in this day and time, especially, again, like we just came out of a pandemic where it was very obvious that we had no way to get a valuable food source in our community so that we wouldn't have to go outside. People had lost their jobs. Some people may not have had a way to get around, gas or whatever. People lost their jobs and things, and yet they had no food source. That's a necessity.
Right.
All right. I'm sorry, because I have to go because I do have the activity.
No problem whatsoever.
Please come and share.
All right, so okay, we heard from Mrs. Taylor. So now let's have Ms. Pugh, a realtor, that wants to talk about home values and things in the community on what happens with park districts.
Good morning, good morning. My name is Tara Pugh. I'm actually a product of this community. My family moved here in the very early 80s, 1981 from Los Angeles. And I have a stake in the community for the last 41 years because of that. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about what we realtors see happen with this community and communities like it that do not have Parks and Recreation. So when someone calls me and they say, Tara, I want you to represent me in my home purchase and this is what I'm looking for. Maybe they say, I'm looking for 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, I'm looking for a pretty good school district, and then I start saying the communities that come up on my search. The next question that they're going to have, and it's a question I want to pose to you all, is what are some of the factors you're looking for as a home buyer? They first want to consider, if they are a family of children that are coming up through the school system, they're considering parks and recreation. What does this community have to offer me in the summertime when I have to be at work all day? And I need a parks and recreation department so I can drop my kids off at some mentorship program, or some youth employment programs, or some program where I can have a child care facility right in the community that's governed by the Parks and Recs is going to offer my child opportunities to grow when they're not in their school year. Parks and Recreation offers programming that allow parents to trust the community to continue to help their child grow in the summers. Also through the fall and the winter times, Parks and Recs can offer buildings and facilities that offer programming very similar to like a Boys and Girls Club. And I don't know if you all know how important Boys and Girls Clubs are to communities that look like ours. I ran the demographic this morning. University Park has more than 75% African American children, black and brown children. Not to make this about race, but it is a disadvantaged and underserved community. And so I hear you, it's important that we feed our kids. We need a grocery store. But outside of that, what is your child being fed in their mental and their growth in terms of who they are and what they represent and what's coming out of their community? The young people that I grew up with in this community, we have all gone on to do some pretty great things, but we also had some pretty great opportunities here in the 80s and the very early 90s. Not sure when and why all that went away. So I want to ask you all, those that are watching on the camera and those that are here, do any of you use parks and recreations in other communities? And that the mayor kind of already answered that for me. I can't tell you how many of my friends I know go to Matson for their workout center. I can't tell you how many. My mother-in-law goes to Hazelcrest for senior line dancing. She lives right on Hickok. She drives all the way to Hazelcrest. She's 83 years old. She goes there to learn how to do the latest two-step. I can't tell you how many kids right now. I am a realtor full-time, but as I shared with the mayor, my desire is also for the youth of this community. So you can find me Monday through Friday at the middle school teaching. I teach during the day so that I can affect the outcomes of this community. The mayor's grandson, Roman, is one of my students. And I do that so that I know, yeah, I told him to, I'm watching you. So I do that so that I have a contribution to the way that this community is going. Parks and Recs can help to remedy a lot of the problems that I see in the middle school. You all, some of these children have no direction. They don't know how to swim. Do you know how many kids float up in Lake Michigan every year?
Oh, that's true. You guys over the state.
Our kids don't know how to swim. Our kids don't have a public education, just knowing what it is to be a good citizen in the community. Those programs come through your local Parks and Recs. When I was a little girl in 1981, I cheered for the University Park Lions. 50 million years ago. And the impact that had on my brother and I. My brother was also a football player here in the community. He ended up playing for Creed and being like a star and going off to college and all that good stuff. But we got the base here in our community. Learning how to get along with those who are in our community no matter what we look like and trying to be a better person. So home ownership, how does that affect home ownership? Number one, the health of the individual benefit, health and individual benefits. We talked about that, all the things that our young people and our seniors can learn and participate in. Family and community bonding. You say, how does Parks and Recs affect that? Well, for homeowners, your Parks and Recs facilities are available for you to rent out for your family reunions, for your family Thanksgiving dinners. This building right here, one of my classmates was laid to rest here, Colleen Morocco. Family bonding. Places that we can go and be. Park spaces and mentoring programs, I talked about that. People are looking for a place to buy a home where they can count on what the Parks and Recs is offering their children. Encouraging kids' activities, that's your football, your baseball, your soccer, painting, whatever the art is that the child is interested in, it can run through Parks and Recs. Not to mention when you have a Parks and Recs building and you have a nonprofit or grassroots organization in your community that can tap into some of those grant dollars to help your child or you improve, it's a win-win. It's like a no-brainer. We got a place to do it, and we got the organizations in town that are operating with the Parks and Recs provision. It helps build safer neighborhoods. I don't have to tell you why that is. Do you want your child to stand out in the middle of the block doing nothing, or do you want them inside? We used to go over here to the lodge over here that used to be in Brittany Woods. We would play pool and board games for hours until our mamas came knocking on the door saying, Tara's in there, send her out. I had a place to be. I wasn't just standing around out here walking in the middle of the street instead of on the sidewalk. Economic advancement, that is from the taxpayer dollars that homeowners are going to be spending because they're attracted to your community. So now when they call me and I say, well, I got a 4-bedroom, 2-bath at University Park, they're going to say, great, I know they have things for my children to do there. Let's go see that property. As opposed to the things that they're saying now. Because you can talk about all the things that don't exist in University Park, but Parks and Recs is one of them that is on the list of a potential home buyer. They don't have a Parks and Recs program. There are young people that go to the middle school who play for Matson, they play for Crete, they play for Tinley Park, they play for Mokina. Who is taking their child all the way to Mokina to participate in sports and different things that you can offer right here in your village? I'm telling you, I hear it every day. Kids gotta hurry up. Parents are coming to the school, picking their kids up at 2:30 instead of letting them stay in school until 2:40 because they gotta get on the road to the next community so they can get to practice. Or they can get to the after school program. That's horrible. You can't, I can't make this stuff up. So, the gentleman here from the Parks and Recreation, he so beautifully talked about it, and I just want to piggyback on something that he said. So according to NERPA, which is the National Recreation and Park Association, parks and recreation agencies have generated more than $166 billion in U.S. economic activity and supported more than 1.1 million jobs. Now that doesn't mean it's going to be 1.1 million jobs in University Park, but can you all use 10 or 15 of those jobs? I'm talking about full-time employment for some of your residents who want to transition from renters to home ownership, but they need an income. They need a regular, solid, stable income so that I can take them to a lender and the lender can say, I'll approve you for this $200,000 loan. Parks and Recs can provide that opportunity. And then the other thing is Parks and Recreation professionals represent a diverse workforce. They're not just sitting up, planning your trails, which is a nice thing to do, but they're actually bringing vital services and vital experience to your neighborhoods. And they range from child care to nutrition programs, workforce development. That is very important in our community. Before I was at the middle school, I donated, well not donated because I got paid, but I worked at Prairie State College in workforce development for adult ed. And what we taught those adults were invaluable skills. That program was supported by federal dollars. These students were not paying because they couldn't afford, but 450 value-added medical assistants passed through my classroom and are now working at your Northwestern Hospital, your Rush Hospitals, South Suburban, Advocate, all of the different surrounding hospitals, and guess what now they're eligible to do? Purchase a home, ding, 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 ding. And so you want to think about these programs that come through these facilities, these organizations. They are community makers. And so the last thing I want to say is that Parks and Recs contributes to home ownership because you can also run a program that we call the Home Buyers Program through your Parks and Recreation. And how that works is somebody who wants to transition from renter to homeowner will come to a Parks and Recs building 1 to 2 nights a week. It's a 6-week program, and they will learn what it takes to become a more I would say a value-added stakeholder in the community, because they go from paying rent to paying property taxes, and they have some pride of ownership in the community. How many of you know that sometimes renters, if you pull up in front of their house, you can tell when you pull in the driveway, this is a renter. And how do we tell? Pride and ownership, right? When you pull up in front of my house, I got some flowers I done dug up and put in the ground, and I got a whole bunch of other things going on because I'm proud of what I own. But the neighbors down the street that are renting, they didn't cut the grass for 4 weeks. The driveway might need to be repoured. The landlord is I don't know if you guys know this, but we have landlords who literally live in Israel. They don't even know what the property looks like. And I don't even want to tell the statistic of how many renters you all have in this community, but I do want to encourage you this, that Parks and Recreation brings something to a community that attracts home buyers, that is going to increase your economic tax base, that will also draw, and he didn't bring me here to talk about this, but this is going to draw more business to your community. It will draw the grocery store. Okay, I got to ask one more question. How many of you have seen a Chick-fil-A in University Park? You didn't see one, did you, Ms. Roudez? How many of you saw one in Park Forest, Madison, Richton Park? Do you know why they don't have it? Because Chick-fil-A only comes to communities where the people make on average $70,000, the homeowners. They're not going to even buy the land and dig a hole if the homeowners don't make on average $70,000 a year. McDonald's will come to a community, however, where the homeowners, that's primary resident, not landlord, make $26,000 a year. We don't see either in University Park. We need to increase our home ownership. When I first moved here, there was a Pizza Hut on the corner of Exchange and Western. Pizza Hut, you remember that? Yes, ma'am. Yeah. There was a Pizza Hut here. It was a TV studio. Yeah. But the home ownership went down and Pizza Hut rode that right out of here. And in order for you all to draw grocery stores and places like McDonald's or Chick-fil-A or whatever, you gotta get your home ownership up so that the census reflects what the average income is to be higher. And I looked that up too. You guys are pretty good. You're doing pretty good. So you could probably approach McDonald's 60. About 66,000, yeah. You guys could approach a McDonald's, but moreover, before you even do that, get that Parks and Recs in here so people can understand the power that they have to improve their community.
Just wanted to bring out that I appreciate you talking about how you were raised here in University Park and the services that was offered. And just to point out that those were services that was offered without a park district. It was offered through the village, a Parks and Recs department. So all of those things that occurred was under a Parks and Recs department within the village. And that's what we're asking for, the village to bring that stuff back. These things that we don't have now, it's not something that we can't get. It's just the village has not provided those services to us. So we can have the daycare, we can have the facilities. They used the whole thing, like you said, we had this. It was a lot of stuff going on, but just because under that, whatever leadership, it wasn't qualified, whoever was running was not qualified enough to continue to maintain. So this is not something that hasn't been done before. It has happened. And we can still do it again through our village. The funding that we used to receive for the Parks and Recs department was about $750,000. Okay, so the village has not done anything since it's closed. Since 2015, we have not had any services provided by this village. And they were doing it previously. So that's not saying that they can't do it, they just choose not to do it. We have the opportunity to do this stuff. We do have faith movers who just did a groundbreaking ceremony for a Parks and Recs department, a whole recreation center here in University Park. We have Governor State that can be utilized. We have other facilities that we have utilized previously. So what we are asking for is for the village to do what they had done. Like you stated, all those services that you had before is the exact same services that we could have today through being ran through a Parks and Recs department. Not where it would increase our taxing body, create a whole new taxing body where the homeowners would be the one, like the guy said, that it wouldn't be it wouldn't be from sales tax, so that means the businesses would not be providing any of that additional tax money for Parks and Recs department. It's going to come from the homeowners. And in this community, we have 1,200 to about 1,300 rooftops. So that would be coming from the residents. And it doesn't even say, what's the plan? Where is it going to be at? We haven't seen anything. We haven't seen a plan to say what we wanted. Like I was saying that, oh, it's based off of what the residents want. The residents haven't seen anything. The residents don't know how much it's going to, we don't know what the startup cost is going to be. So I understand that I missed some of the gentlemen from the association speech, but all of those programs could still happen without a park district, but without having to increase our taxes and utilizing the taxes that we are already given right now. That's my statement.
Right, so I think that what this is if I understand this correctly, this is the beginning of a conversation.
This is a conversation.
It's not the beginning because it's on the ballot. So it's not the beginning. This is the end.
Okay, 1 second. Go ahead, trustee, because I know your time is now.
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning, everyone. So I just wanted to kind of respond to some of the statements that was just made. So when the young lady spoke about spending time, her days at the lodge, you're probably not familiar with the lodge is, but I am. And the lodge was not village funded. It was not under the village program. It was a private lodge that was in Britain Woods, where the entire community was able to take care of, so that's not true. Then she also talked about the University Park Lions, which has never been under the village umbrella either. In fact, here's a document right here that says, undefeated champions, 1979 Will Cook Football League, Park 4 South, University Park Lions. And I stand here today as the president of the University Park Lions, the president of the Uptown Wrestling Program, the president of His Squad Athletics, the president of Our Kids Count Foundation, in which I do mentoring and I do mental health work. Been running the Lions program for the last 13 years. I started the Uptown Wrestling Program for the kids in the community, and I'm one person. This type of responsibility should not be on such a small group of volunteers in our community, which is why I'm fighting for the Park District. One thing the young lady didn't mention is a lot of things that we don't have and we never had, which is why I started the Our Kids Count Foundation and began to recruit men to do mentoring for our kids, which is why I've been working to create the Safe Passage program for the kids to walk home after school, something that the village has never had. Sustainable programming from birth to senior citizens, the village has never had. I've been here 40 years, my whole life. So how do we get sustainable programming from birth to seniors that's really sustainable for the next 50 to 100 years after everybody in this room is gone? And that's what concerns me. That's why I'm fighting for it. Because what happens when I'm gone? We lose 3 programs that have touched tens of thousands of lives in the community. What happens when the president of the baseball program decides to step away? What happens when Ms. Keeley decides to step away, who's doing basketball? What happens when people like Ms. Taylor decides to step away, who's doing things in the community? I was just going to bank on other people stepping up because the volunteerism is at an all-time low. I know this. I live this. This is my life. I'm trying to make sure that the next 100 years we put something in place where a sustainable program from birth to seniors is in place. And we can't depend on volunteers to do it all because that's what's happening. And I'm tired. I'll be honest with you. There was a threat at the high school there was going to be a shooting on a Friday. I got a phone call Thursday night. I organized 50 men to show up to the school to make sure the kids are safe. Why should I have to do that alone? I had a workshop right in this building where the little girls kept coming up missing through this sex trafficking. Why should I have to be the person to organize a self-defense seminar for the kids, me and my wife? During the pandemic, I sat in my basement and turned my basement into a sweatshop and made masks for all the senior citizens in the community and delivered them myself while my wife cooked meals. It's too much on a small group of people in this community. It's not fair. It's not fair. Why should I have to start a wrestling program in my basement because there's nowhere to have a wrestling program? A park district will help us sustain programming and services for the future. I'm in tune with the young kids in the community, more than anybody else, and I stand up here and say it. During the pandemic, when the kids was organizing, finna go up to Family Dollar and tear Family Dollar up and loot, I'm stopped them. Because of the connection. I sat up here in a meeting at the middle of the summer. I said, if we don't do something, if we don't get no cameras or something going, one of our kids gonna get killed. 3 weeks later, one of our kids get killed. Yes, sir. It's not a joke to me. Everybody makes it about politics. This is serious. We have to put something in place, sustainable, that is funded consistently. Somebody who proposes the park district got up here the other night and said that the village has never had a sustainable program. Well, if we've never had it, then we have to do something different at some point to get what we're looking for.
Yes, sir.
So I hear what you're saying, but I'm here to tell you I grew up here, we've never had everything we need. We just made it work with what we had. We also had a different generation of parents in the community. That was helpful.
Yes.
That was helpful. But we don't have that now. We don't have that now. We got to do something. We have to do something. And it has to be something different. My opinion is a lot of people just don't want the park district because they want to go against the grain of what the mayor wants. I want the park district. So my supporters know that I want the park district. Because when I leave here, because my time on this earth is limited, and I know that every day I remind myself in the mirror, you got a limited amount of time. So do what you can do that's going to have an everlasting impact. And this is one of the things that I truly believe is going to have an everlasting impact if done right. We're in a bad place right now. I'm doing healing circles with kids and hearing their stories. I'm doing social emotional learning training for administrators in the school district, trying to teach them how to work with traumatized kids. They put labels on the backs of our kids that we the bad kids. I'm doing the work. So I understand it. A lot of people not doing the work. So the people that support me, listen to me. Me and my family own multiple houses in this community. I don't want my taxes to go up either. I do want to put things in place that can help curb the crime. I've been preaching to you that these kids got a whole bunch of guns and a whole bunch of free time, idle time. But what I do know is they like structure and they want structure because I give it to them. I did a healing circle last week, had to tell 2 kids to take your gun back in the house. That's not what this is. This is real. Taxes don't matter if you're dead. If one of these little boys run up on you, try to rob you and kill you, your taxes didn't matter. In fact, the young lady who had to bury her son this summer, her funeral was close to $8,000. So we can sit here and politicize everything. I'm not a politician. This community is my heart. If you ain't figured that out by now, then I don't know what you're doing. If we don't do it, what do? We can't say go back to what we did, because what we did wasn't enough. And post-pandemic requires more than the past, so we have to do more. There's a responsibility as leaders in the community to look out for the mental health and stability of our citizens now. This is new. This is post-pandemic. We have to have specific programming in place for this. How do we do it? When we did the retirement for the sergeant, I spoke about how I've been working with the police department to embed a social worker into the police department. Also created a mental health app for the residents, for the beat police officers while they're on calls that's dealing with children who have mental health concerns. These are things that I can help implement into a park district. I can help train people in the park district to do these things, and then I won't feel the weight of the world on my back all the time. But I welcome that weight, because this is my calling. And I know if we put things in place, we can make the shift to have sustainable programs from birth to seniors in the community, because that's the ultimate goal. I don't know 100% if the park district is the right thing or not. I don't know. I ain't gonna sit up here and lie and say I do. But in my mind, it's the best option right now for sustainable programming. You brought up the Faith Movers, City of Faith. I'm on the planning commission for it. It's not a park district.
No, it's recreation.
It's not a park district. It's a recreation building as well as a community center. And the beautiful thing about the community center, it's going to have a grocery component, so we'll be free fresh fruit and produce for the residents of University Park. And also a recreational building that will have a lot of the amenities that we really need in the community, and it's not going to cost the taxpayer $1. I'm going to say that again because that's big. I'm on the planning commission. Multi-million-dollar facility, we've already broke ground. A rec center, as well as a community center with a grocery store component that will provide fresh fruit and produce for the residents of University Park. A safe haven for when the school district says we can't use their facilities for our practices or for our open gyms and different things. We'll have a facility.
Or we gotta pay for it.
Or we have to rent it out. A safe place for us to hold our community healing circles. A safe place to bring in workshops on mental health and social emotional learning for our kids. And that's not gonna cost the residents $1. So, as I close, sustainable programming from birth to seniors has never happened. There's been spurts of different things, but I grew up here and it's never happened. It needs to happen. And if you have a better solution on a way to make this happen, I'm all ears.
Okay.
I'm listening.
What you were just saying, I appreciate your grind, your hustle, how you work with the children. Like you said, that's in your heart. That's something that you will always continue to do. Don't doubt it. But like you were just brought up with the Faith Movers, has a community center, a recreation center that would be able to provide all of those type of things. It's going to be here in University Park. I want the community to support that program. we can support that program. Like you said, it's free to us. So free to us means that we should be able to get memberships there. We should be able to support that program to be successful. We are a small community right here. Like you said, with volunteers, yes. A park district, we still gonna need a whole lot of volunteers. A whole lot. So it's gonna be, if we have a program that has already, through a good church, faithful with community center, recreation center, who's already going to have some of that a little bit established, right? We should be supporting that program.
Absolutely.
That's all I'm saying. We should be supporting that program and not trying to open up something else separately that we could be doing ourselves within the village like we have done before. The Parks and Recs Department is going to be like, oh, we got to take care of this. Now we got to pay for insurances for the employees. Now we got to pay for pensions for these employees. We still got to have volunteers to sustain that program. Why take from what could be already being established, the volunteers that might be needed for there, to say now we got to find volunteers? It's hard, like you said. I'm on a baseball organization. It's hard finding volunteers. I had to become a coach this year because we couldn't find coach volunteers. You know, going back and forth, doing this, doing that, helping the residents in the community. I'm volunteering, I'm providing services, I'm helping them out, I'm doing the research for them, I'm writing papers for them. Absolutely, there is a lot of good people here, but it's not as many. In a park district, you would definitely need a whole lot of volunteers. And I just feel that we should be supporting a program that has already broken ground, that's not going to cost us any additional money, and support them to say, if they have a program, we should be paying for their registration there. It's in University Park, we're supporting University Park, and that will help us become more sustainable.
I appreciate that, and that's a good comment, and I'd like to respond real quick. So I agree 100%, but what I want to address, so first of all, City of Faith is in University Park, but it's open to surrounding suburbs as well, right? Okay. And then also, we talk about sustainable program from birth to seniors. That's not going to get it done. Also, as a member of the board of the baseball, City of Faith won't help with making sure that y'all fields are intact. City of Faith won't help with the things that are going on in the community as that requires funding and manpower, okay? So I agree, City of Faith is going to be huge, but it's not going to be enough. Yes, ma'am.
All this is wonderful and it's futuristic. We're talking about passing a referendum next month, possibly, if it passes. Where will you house a district? Where will it be housed? We don't have the facility at the farm anymore that we can use. You know, the pool isn't open, it's not, you know, usable. You know, where would you even put it? It seems like everything is putting the cart before the horse at this point. I don't understand, you know, why are we putting the cart before the horse? Things should be in place. You also have a golf course. Will that entity become a part of a park district? That's just hemorrhaging. And that would just be so abusive to taxpayers at that point. But I love City of Faith. That sounds wonderful. It sounds utilizing, you know, but where are you going to house everything? You're talking about passing this possibly within the next month.
So I'm not talking about passing it. It's on the residents to pass.
Well,
so I got a question for you. Are you satisfied with the programming from birth to senior?
But that's not the point.
That's very much the point. That's very much the point.
We got this guy.
My question is, where will you house it? I'm not opposed or for it either. I'm neutral. I'm just trying to find information.
Yeah.
Where are you going to house it?
I don't have to answer to
And
that.
I know that's the scary part. So if you pass it, it's just out there and our taxes are going up and still nothing's happening. You see what I'm saying?
Can I say something about the taxes going up? Right now the taxes are going up because the price of your property, the EAV, is increasing because our homes are valued more than they've been valued before. Right now houses on Union, Landau are selling for over $200,000 per year. At one time, they were under $50,000 a year. So the EAV is going up. So when your property value increases, you're not going to have any options because your properties are going to go up and your taxes will go up.
Yeah, I understand
because your
that.
property value is higher than it used to be. And we all want higher property values for our property.
But my question still remains, where will you house it?
Well, you know what, as we said, prayerfully when this referendum passes, there will be an opportunity. It doesn't happen overnight. We got money, we're renovating the farm, and we will build our own facilities, and we're working with the City of Faith as a joint partnership between the village and faith movers and our local churches. So everything has to start, because if we don't plant the seed, there's no way in the world the tree will ever grow. So we have to take the first step, and we have to do things different than we did before, because expecting something different is not going to get us where we need to go. We have to adapt and adjust to the times and be able to put programs in place for our young people, for our senior citizens, and our taxing bodies. I have multiple properties in this community as well, too. I'm not trying to put a gun to my head and raise my taxes, so don't think that this is a mayor's incentive. This conversation is for the residents to decide the best interest and the future of our community.
Okay.
So,
my other question was...
this young man is next, Ms. Sanders, after you. Go ahead.
My other question was, is the golf course going to be included in this?
That could be a discussion. That could be a discussion. It never was under park. It was never under park and recreation. I put it that way. It always served anything. And don't the residents deserve to have the constituent services delivered back to them? Besides the burden of everything else being, we're trying to do the park and rec, we're trying to do public works, we're trying to do all these other things. It's time that the government does what government does and provide constituent services back to the residents.
With a plan, though, John.
Yes, we do have
a plan.
We do. Well, let me tell you about our plan. Right now, we're getting streets paved, we're getting trees cut down that haven't been cut down. Yeah, but as the guy from the Park District said, let's get the Park District formed. Everything has a work. It's a work in progress. It's a work. You can't plan for facilities when we don't even have a past referendum.
We'll take a lead for the residents. We want
You
to see
can say
change.
what
We
you
want to
want
see
to have
better.
and then work toward it.
Okay, that's good. That's a good point. Mr. Sir?
What are you talking about?
It's okay. So I'm just sort of listening to everybody talking, and I think there's some kind of a disconnect here. I think that you said that you like or you want to have these services that the village used to pay for out of its general budget, if I'm not mistaken. This doesn't change the cost of the services, whether the village pays for it out of the general budget or the park district supervises how much it pays for. All it does kind of is, in America, we seem to have forgotten how to do everything. We only do one thing now, whoever we are. And so it sort of focuses the attention of getting whatever this job is, this, let's call it sustainable birth to senior citizenry benefit. So whatever that job is, what happens is it shouldn't cost more, it should maybe cost less. The park district doesn't have to raise tax dollars. I think the mayor said he wanted to start it out at 50% of what the old budget was, if I understood what he said. And in addition, now you have a group of individual people. They're getting some small salary, I'm sure. And so, but they're still paying all the rest of the people that got paid from the village. That doesn't change anything. But this group of people now, they are now capable of focusing in on federal and state grants. I know that the board has done some of that, but now all of a sudden they're zeroed in on federal and state grants. There's no need that the money, that it doesn't cost more because you have a park district. It should cost whatever it costs, whatever programs the village wants to implement. And it should be a way to do it more efficiently. That's the idea of setting up all these different structures, whether it's a company or a government or anything. So I overheard somebody saying something about politics, and that's always bad, you know. If everybody's intention is the same, you like the services, you want to keep, you know, the dollars low, as efficient as possible, then there's probably the best way to do that seems to be to put the focus into a group of people. The only thing they're doing is watching that. That's what they're up to.
Good point. Everybody's intention is the same, for sure. I know that. Everybody wants the same thing.
Okay, before we move forward, we have one more presentation. She's going to talk about the taxes, and this comes from conspiracy.
I want to address that.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Taylor. We want to make sure that her
I
time
want to
is.
make mine.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Taylor.
I want to address that real quick. So I think one of the first things you said was that it seems that there's a disconnect.
In the communication.
Yes, in the communication, thank you, because that's I needed that. And there is a disconnect in the communication. And one of the things, the reason there's a disconnect is because many times, in many situations, the residents have not had an opportunity to follow the process. A lot of information that we're getting now is information that perhaps in the beginning, if we had gotten this information in segments, you can digest it and not only verbalize information, but documented information so that people, educated people who want to be educated about something, can be respected enough to get something that we can actually read and format, and also having a special meeting called for our financials, specifically for that, so that we can understand that along with this process that's taking place. Perhaps the disconnect that you're speaking of that is happening would not be so blatant obvious.
Well, it sounds like we're just trying to make blame instead of reconnect.
I'm not saying blame, sir.
So just reconnect.
I'm giving you information, like you were giving information. I'm giving you information from this side.
Well, here's a
It should
meeting
have been
today.
planned before we put it on the ballot already, guys. That's my problem with having. That's my problem. These type of workshops should have been going on all along. We've been thinking about it
A lot of
before it's
different
put on the
people that you were
ballot.
stating that it was services already being happening. No, there's no services has
Not
been happening.
today, it was when you were
I'm
referring
talking about
to it.
back in the day,
Yes.
but it's been since.
But somebody paid for it, and whether it's the village or a subsidiary of the village,
It
that
was
don't
through,
change.
it was through the village, and it was also through volunteerism, through nonprofit organizations, like you were stating that was. But it just, since that has stopped, it's been 7 years, and the residents haven't seen anything. We're paying for taxes for these services, but we're not receiving
It's
it.
not a negative. It's
So
just
that's
a
the
negative.
problem. Don't say that this is what it is. When this time period, we have nothing to show for it over the past since it closed in 2015. 16, 15. So,
I think the village is working on reopening all these facilities with or without a park
No.
district.
no,
But you
I
think
think
we
you're
need to
mistaken.
know.
no.
I think you're mistaken about that. The
No,
village,
they're not.
I'm familiar with some grants that they've applied for. I'm not sure if they got them or not, but the village is of course working on reopening those facilities.
So maybe you could disclose some of that.
I don't know that. The mayor can.
Excuse me, we have Stephanie here from Conspiric's office talking about the levy, because there's a lot of misinformation about it's going to cost $800 per month. So we're going to define that and get the real facts, because that's a misnomer in the community. I'm not going to make myself pay an additional $800 a month on 3 or 4 different properties. That's just, it doesn't make sense. And I understand that it says on the referendum that it says the levy would be up to $800,000. Either it says up to or not to exceed $800,000. Not to exceed. Okay, Stephanie, please go ahead. Stephanie's going to address the residents, the viewing audience, and the residents that are present regarding our tax levy and how this thing all happens. Because currently we paid $800,000 a year for our Park and Recreation Department with humongous salaries. So here we are doing something different for the next generation. Stephanie, please.
My name is Stephanie Blanco. I'm from John Conspiric Company. We are a local South Suburb accounting firm that specializes in governmental auditing and consulting. So what we've been asked to prepare today is what is the tax effect going to be on individual tax bills? How is this actually going to break down to what the residents are seeing and how this is going to impact your tax bills? There are a lot of different factors that go into your tax levy, and everybody's tax levy is different depending on exactly which community you live in, which school district you live in, and there are a lot of factors. So what we've done is taken a sample of many of the different tax bills within University Park to do the calculations to see how this would actually affect if we added this additional levy to the tax bills. So we worked with the proposed levy of $500,000. So if we add a $500,000 to the University Park levy as it stands, based on your EAVs, the overall increase to your individual tax bill is going to be about 2.5%. So where that stands, if your EAV is, we had talked about, $180,000 market value house, where your EAV is $60,000, the increase on your tax bill would be approximately $212 per year.
Can't afford it.
So that's per year, yes, it would be per year, which would be break down to about $17 per month, and that's
at your $500,000.
And that's at your $500,000 levy. And again, that that's for an EAV of $60,000. If the EAV is $40,000 on your house, it would be $141 a year.
Why didn't you use the 800 since it's up to 800?
That's valued on houses that are $400,000.
No, she used 500. So
No, go ahead.
Well, I can tell you how it affects higher than that. The $500,000 is what the current expectation is when we were having our discussions on what to calculate this at, was at $500,000. So if it would go up to the $800,000, yes, that percentage would increase from 2.4% up to possibly up to 3.9% would be the maximum. If it was at the maximum.
I like floor and ceiling estimates.
Okay, that's the floor and ceilings estimate. I mean, well, the floor being $500,000, so that's where we were working at. I think that you wouldn't be going less than that for the initial expectation, but for the $500,000, it's about a 2.45%. So at an EAV of $40,000, it would be $141 per year, which is like $11.75 per month.
And right now, and if I'm not mistaken, Stephanie, correct me if I'm wrong, if it was $800,000, that would be based on an EAV of your property of $400,000 or better?
Yeah, well, to get to those $800 numbers, if your EAV is $40,000 and if the levy was $800,000 and your EAV is $40,000, you would be at $226 per year.
But at the 90, because you said the 90 first. So if it was at the 90, EAV at 90 is what?
No, well, an EAV of 60 is at $500,000, your bill would increase $212. And if at $800,000, it would increase $339. The difference between a $500,000 levy and an $800,000 levy.
So it'd be,
yeah, it would go from $212 to $339 between the minimum and the maximum.
But that's if they levy at that. I'm sure they're not going to levy that low. But that's if they levy at that.
Yes.
Right. So we still don't know if they're going to levy at that.
Exactly. Yes. So we were asking what would be the impact on individual tax bills, and of course this is going to vary depending on again which school district you're in, what are the components of your real estate tax bill. So we did a sample of many different bills to see where it came in at, and this was really about the range that it showed that it was going to be.
Are the other taxing bodies here today? Any other taxing bodies? No. Okay, that's important.
and that's at a property value of 130, you said?
Yeah, there's two different numbers that I was going on. The $60,000 number with the 212 and the 339, that's a property fair market value of about 180,000.
You just said the house over 200,000.
Yeah.
That's a difference right there.
That's the $60,000. It's like a three-factor.
We don't know what the other taxing bodies are going to levy either, so it might go up too based on our property values going up.
Oh, right, yeah, there's a lot of different factors that go into your EAV.
Yeah.
We're isolating what affects an additional $500,000 levy would be for the Park District. Of course, we can't speak on what the districts are going to do, higher, lower. This is just the impact of what the Park District levy would be.
Mayor, have you had a conversation with the other taxing bodies with regard to adding the Park District and how it might impact it? You know, it could just blow.
Everybody has their own taxes. I've had one conversation, they thought it was a great idea because most communities have some form of park district or some kind of format of giving back. So everybody that I spoke to from the state.
Which tax body?
I mean a local tax.
No, I haven't talked to the local. I talked to the assessor, and what I did find out from the assessor's office is that, say for instance, I'm a disabled veteran at 100% disability.
You don't pay taxes.
Exactly. Say it freeze.
That's for certain.
You got all these properties, you know what your tax go up, they not gonna
Senior free.
No, I'm not a disabled veteran, Ms. Dilworth.
Oh,
I'm just using an example.
Oh,
We're not selfish.
But
You
also what it is,
sacrifice for the children.
if my thing is, okay, like you said, 100%. We have 200 veterans in this village, okay, last day that I checked. 200 veterans.
Please, guys, let's have just one conversation. Ms. Covington, then Mr. Russell.
We have 200 veterans, okay? So right now, you're still talking, Mayor. There are sir, 200, you have 200 veterans right now, okay? So I don't know what percentile they are, but they are, most of them 100%, so they're not paying taxes. You have the senior freeze, they're not paying taxes. Then you got another senior discount.
So does that mean that they won't have an increase?
I'm sorry?
Is that what you're saying, Ms. Covington? That the senior freeze people will not have an increase?
Yeah, they will, but I'm just saying, we got a discount now. So now we're going to have to pay even more. But these are things that we're losing. Those are tax dollars we have lost. So there's no revenue to substantiate another increase. So we're going to be impacted. The people that are paying taxes, it's going to kill us.
And this is the impact on the people that are paying taxes.
That's what I'm saying.
This is the impact, or this is the impact of the people that are paying taxes. So those factors are going to be the factors whether you have the park district or not. Right now, we're looking at what the effect of adding a park district would be.
Go ahead, sir.
I own a home out here in the process of buying another property. I don't mind paying more taxes for seniors to have a place to go, kids to have a place to go, because I have to leave here to get everything I want. Homewood Flies Mode, all these places, they got everything they need, but they pay a lot of taxes. Our taxes out here compared to the houses we live in is way cheaper than Cook County. And if you don't want to pay more taxes and to stop people from having what we need, this is what we need so we can have a proper community. If you don't want to pay more taxes, then move out. Move to Southern Illinois, move to Cook County, but don't stop progress. See, when you're dealing with black folks, everybody got issues amongst each other. We like one big bipolar family. People don't like you, they'll cut their head off just to spite their shoulders. And that's the truth. She bitter because she ain't the man no more.
No, I'm not. No, sir, that's not.
Y'all bitter, man. Everybody in here know y'all bitter, better. Could we get a raise of hand? Because the truth needs to be told. All this is just holding up progress. Let the voters decide what we want. Because I want this. I want it for my grandkids. I ain't gonna block it because you mad. You didn't do nothing when you was out here. Everything was getting closed to you.
One more time and we're going to have a slam.
So
we'll go to court. Okay.
What you gonna slam at me about you not doing nothing?
Wait. I don't have a problem with...
Guys, let's have a little control.
I'm fine. I'm fine. May I say something?
Well, I'll tell you the truth.
Wait a minute, I want to say
my
something.
middle name Ruth, I'll tell you the truth. Y'all just bitter, y'all blocking progress, y'all worse than them slave niggas that was out there with them shackles and chains. Yes, y'all is. Because y'all block progress for black folks. We need what we need out here. We don't have it because of y'all type of people. And that's the truth. That's the truth.
Thank you, sir, for your comments. Listen, Neva, this is about positivity. You know, we continue down this path. You know, we can't continue to ask for change and continue doing something the same way and expecting something different. If we don't think that $100 or $130 a year, or what investing into our community, investing into our young folks, investing into our seniors. At one time we had it. I'm not going to keep going in the rearview mirror because we're headed for a crash if we keep driving, looking in the rearview mirror. It's time to look at the big picture and have some future. If that's the case, we would have had a technical resource center that would have been up and going and provided all the services. So it's time to start thinking outside the box. Let's do something different. It's a win-win. We got new houses coming to the University. We're going to build 3 or 4 new homes because we've done our very best in economic development. And people aren't talking about the things that's going to come in once these companies open up. Ballpark figure, Carvana. Some people like them, some people don't. But in the long run, it's going to be really good for the community because what we didn't have is $2.5 million in guaranteed real estate taxes, which everyone has to pay. That's not in the tip, not any special tax indifference. So they definitely owe us $2.5 million annually every year, $1 million in sales tax at the lowest every year, and 500 jobs. So we've created a corridor of economic development with $500 million in new businesses and growth and over 2,000 jobs. When things get started, there will be a local economy that we've never had before. People talk about a grocery store. Grocery stores will come, but first of all, they're never going to come into the center of the town. I think we've all decided and realized that, because that's not a return on any investment. Cicero corridor will be the most likely, but now the best chances that we've ever had are happening right now, because on Cicero, we didn't have 2,000 employees that are going to be looking for places to go. We didn't have over 50,000 cars north and south on Cicero every single day. We didn't have the ingress and egress off of I-57. We didn't have the #1 industrial park in the state of Illinois as we do now. We didn't have the #1 companies in the nation as we do now, such as an Amazon, such as a Clorox, such as a Carvana, such as a Century Steel and Wire Company, such as a Dot Food, such as a Solo Cup. With our relationship with our industrial park, we'll get to where we need to be, but let's not be afraid to take the first step and go out there and cast and say, let's get a park district. Let's do something out the ordinary, do something different, and let's think about, not ourselves, but let's think about planting the seed for our next generation. My job is to make sure that the next generation is taken care of, because whatever God has for this community, no man can change the aspect, no one can change the direction. Whatever God has for me, no man can change that direction. What's good for this community is what I'm good for. 30-year residents, 7 grandkids in this community, multiple properties. So if anybody's a big investor in this community, I am, because I'm not talking about what I talk about. The proof is in the black and white. It's in the black and white. And we've been cheating ourselves. Don't be afraid to do something different. The relationship at Governor State has never been better. We've never had such collaborations at Governor State as we do now. We couldn't have, because it's a whole new president there. Dr. Maiman is gone. Dr. Cheryl and I are good friends. And we're moving our community forward, and they look forward to doing things with us. Faith movers, they look forward to doing things with us. First Baptist, they look forward to doing things with us. Sean's new church right here, they look forward to doing things with us. Let's not always be so conservative when it comes to investing in our own communities. The Flames track team, a stellar in the community, been running their own program for 20+ years. Franklin, doing the football, basketball separate. All of our residents, we got to go to Matteson for park and recreation. We got to go to Creek for park and recreation. We got to go to HF. Time to invest in our own community. We all want our property values to go up. We're all tax conscientious, because anybody who's a homeowner would be tax conscientious. It's a very hard decision to make, but it's the best decision. Believe in something. Right now, we haven't believed in anything. I'm not crapping on no past administration and no other leadership. Nothing. That doesn't make any difference. We're moving this community forward. That's what the whole goal is. Moving forward, doing something extraordinary and not the ordinary. That's it.
Okay, so can we stay on the topic? I really do have questions.
Yes.
Pertaining to the park district, and we only on a short time. So if you could please, we don't need to split.
So I want to mention
questions.
I mean, that was really what we wanted to get at. That was just really what we wanted to talk about, was what that impact would be on individual bills.
Okay, so my question to you is, where did you come up with this $500,000? What does that consist of?
That's the mayor's budget.
I'm talking to
Right. Yes, that's what we just have, the dollar amount. We don't have a specific budget of what
right. I'm just saying. So it was just the number that said,
if we have, yes.
Let's say this park district, we're going to need $500,000.
Yes.
You just come up. That was just a number.
Well,
so you really don't know. What
I don't have the consistency of that number. That wasn't necessary for calculating on this.
You're the accounting firm. You're a Conspiracy Group. You're the one came up with the information. So when they come to you, did he say, this is because we're going to need this, and this, our insurance, this, and this, or it's just, here, put in $500,000, and let's see what it's going to come.
For these calculations, it was just the $500,000,
okay,
so that number comes from the village. Yeah, that wasn't a calculation on our part.
So there's no type of nothing that came, you just got a number, said,
No budget.
Said, they just gave you a number.
If there was an increase in the levy of this amount, what impact would that have on residents' bills?
Okay. Also, did you all come up with a range? Because you're saying based off of just for homes that's property value of 180. We have homes that range from different values. Yes. So was there a breakdown based off of the different values on how much it's going to increase to the homeowners? Because I could say some people's homes are more than 180,000 value. What would it cost those residents?
Yes, I do have a further breakdown of, if there's specific questions on what those are. I mean, if we have a home that's $300,000 fair value with $100,000 EAV, the $500,000 budget would be $353 annually.
That'd be 353, and if it would be the 800 proposed for the first year is what?
$565.
So 565 additional dollars per year.
$565 per year
And that's
if you
for the-
had a $300,000 home.
And that's for the first year, but the next year, based off of a board, it could be levied based off of the board. So it could be, the levy could range from all the way up to 5%.
It would be the Park District Board. Yes, the
It would
Park
be the
District
Park
Board
District
would make
Board.
those decisions moving
That's what I'm
forward.
talking
This
about.
is, yes, the initial
But
one,
that's what I'm
and
saying,
then
the initial-
whoever's elected to the Park District Board, they would make those decisions.
But each
yes.
year, the board can say, I might want to have a levy of the need up to 5% or more, correct?
It would be on the demand of the.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Could they do that? Yes, they could.
Okay.
They could go less, they could go more. It really, ultimately what it comes down to is what is actually happening in the park board? What is happening in the district? What programs are they getting? What grants are they getting that can offset some of those levy costs? Because that would be a high priority, is getting grants. So even if we have an $800,000 budget, can we get grants to cover $300,000 and keep our levy at $500,000? And when you have a park board that is really focused on that, and this is what the park board is focused on, it's not the same administration that's here running the village. They're focusing only on that, so they have more time to allocate to seeing what other outside sources are there and what other opportunities they may be able to, you know, partner up with not-for-profit organizations that the village may not have some of those same opportunities.
So,
So
Ms. Cummings.
I have a question. If you don't levy a park district charge fee, that means the companies are not going to pay either. So we talked about the houses at $200 a house, but the larger companies that the mayor was referencing, they will have a large burden of, out of this that they don't otherwise pay right now. If you don't put that levy in there, not only do the people have to pay the taxes, the big companies have to pay much more taxes to contribute to your park district. That's what they're telling us.
Sir.
All of them
They don't pay tax, they're
All of
tips.
them.
They're not all on tips.
Most of them.
No.
And when they
And
don't,
the tips run out at a certain point, and
She said
at the library, these companies back here, they don't want to pay library taxes. We get them all the time.
We get
They
that.
win sometimes too.
Yeah, there was the appeal.
And they do.
We challenge that.
Go ahead, Ms. Cummings.
Now, and you said that about the park districts. Now, understandably so, because I know a few park district directors, and they told me, and they came and spoke to the CCC last week, 2 weeks ago. They told us that the grants are very rarely. She's been waiting on a grant for 6 years now. Those grants are here, maybe so. But now the thing about it that she said, so they have to really rely on taxpayers. They have the right. Once this tax, the only thing I think is great and all that. However, I wish we could get a person with a master's degree in recreational science to bring back that line item to have our park and recs back, because that board, once it's set in place, we have no control. They have the right to increase their levies every year, and they're going to do it to pay for their salaries and whatever other needs that they need. And we have no control over that. Once they're in place, they can do like library, school board, like the school board's killing us. Okay, 75% of our taxes going on the school board. We know that. So we have no control, and we'll have no control there as well. They have the right to hire 100 people if they want to. We're responsible for all employees, their benefits, their salaries, and all that. That's the only fear that I'm having right now.
The board would not be paid, however,
No,
you
the
will
board
have
doesn't.
to be
The
paid
others
paying
don't.
an
Staff does.
administrator.
Right, the
Right,
administrator
and
An
staff.
executive director.
Right.
So they will levy for that if they don't have the money and the grants aren't
it would be in
coming.
that
That's my
levy.
only fear. And as far as children, to their babies, to seniors, and please, I have another organization maybe that's much bigger than what I did, okay? So that's not here, and it's embarrassing for someone to come in here, for people other than black people here, to call the N-word. That's embarrassing to us as black people. I'm apologizing for his behavior, and God bless him. But it's bad. We can still have the same fundamentals that we have from a park rec that we have from a park district. I don't know why there's such a hit on that. If we could just get a person that's qualified to run the park and recs, we can keep that, and it wouldn't be a burden financially on us. That's all we're saying.
But if you're going to
And we
pay for
have
all the
had that in
services
place
and
with
programs.
children, because there was a lady that ran Park and Recs years ago, wonderful woman, and we had that going. We had volunteers. People don't want to volunteer anymore. People don't want to get involved. It's the same people in this village, as Mayor knows, the same people on the same committees all the time, the same volunteers. The people just don't come out. I don't know what committee he's on, but I was in this village for over, I don't know how many years, over 25 years here, and I was on 17 years I was a volunteer, and I was on 6 different committees. And that was a shame. We would have the same people on all the committees. So as far as the volunteerism, that's sad in University Park. We do need to get up and do better than we can, but I believe we get that Park and Rec's back together and we get a person with a degree in science, and Park and Rec science, they can make it happen. They can do the same things. They have the same fundamentals.
It could be, whether the village is paying for it through the Village of University Park's general levy versus levying for it and paying out of it through the park district. If the dollars are needed to run these programs, the dollars are needed one way or the other, and it's going to add to it.
The difference is it's a board, ma'am. It's a board, and they have the right to levy their salaries. We can control it at the village level. We can't control it if there's a new board.
What's the difference?
They have the
residents
right.
The residents input and respond. What's the difference?
They have a board. They're just like this board, just like the school board.
It's another board that answers to the electorate.
Yes, but you're not understanding. The school board, I would love to talk to them and tell them to stop levying so high, but we can't. Just like when we do the Park and Rec board, we can't. We can't tell them that. We can ask them.
The park board is not as independent as the school.
I'm talking to her. I'm not asking. Where are you from?
Where am I from? Mars.
Okay, good. So I'm from Venus. And now, I'm just trying to ask you the question. I'm asking her, and I would respect that time with her, okay? Please, sir. Thank you.
So, with respect to the programs that are being run, and if you're going to pay those dollars one way or the other, the fear of having a new board in place, it doesn't take away your rights and your same concerns as a citizen. The citizens can go to those board meetings. You're electing them. They would have to answer to the residents the same as a board. This board would answer to if they had a department. The citizens would have the same questions and comments to this board of how they're spending those dollars versus the park board.
You're not understanding. We've done that with the school board, and they're not listening. They still levy high.
Well, are you concerned that the park board won't listen and this board does listen more? Is that where?
I'm afraid we have no control over another board. They got to look out for themselves and their employees and their programs.
But this board would have those same burdens of bringing a department back. You would have the same burdens on the residents voting for these trustees.
We can cut the prices. We can cut the employees. We can be more mobile. I'm telling you because I know this. I've been on this board 16 years. I've worked with that. And I never want to be on there again, ever. I've never run for anything in University Park.
I mean, in all of the boards, and when you talk about the school districts, and I work with a lot of school districts with our company, and I see the same thing. I see some board meetings when I go to the school district and there are no citizens there and the board just talks and does what they want. I go to other school district board meetings where you have 30, 40 parents that are out there and voicing their opinions and doing that. I mean, you have to elect your boards that are going to try and listen to you and your concerns. No, I do get it, but I guess I'm not understanding where the question is if those dollars are going to be spent on a park board versus the university park board.
It's better controlled if we have that. We cannot control another board, man.
Trustee had a hand up for the longest.
I appreciate the conversation. It's really, really well. It's really good. This should have happened prior to the referendum going on now. But we can't go back in time. We can't change things. We have to deal with it right here, right now, today. And I'm looking at the situation, and I am not totally against the park district. I'm just against the levying of the taxes of the residents in this village and how high is it going to bring up their property tax. And so with that being said, I know you guys are watching current events, and I know you see what's going on a daily basis. And we are entering a recession. And our lights and gas are going up. NICOR is going up 40%. ComEd is going up 30%. I've been knocking on doors. People know I'm always out in the community knocking on doors. And I am seeing the seniors struggle. So as far as I'm concerned, children do not work and they do not pay bills. And they live in households with families that have to support them in their basic needs. So I have a grave concern on, I understand we need programming for children, I was very happy to see the faith movers. It has made a huge, gigantic step to help this community with the faith organization community center. So my concern is if we move forward with this park district, could we do it or I'll say reword the referendum in reference to it being a volunteerism and no salary-based trustees or board? Because if we're doing this in good faith for the children, we'll do what's necessary for the children as well as the seniors and the taxpayers in this community by not adding that burden at this particular time with our country moving in the direction that it's moving. So I understand we want to move the village forward and we need change. I believe in change. I believe in moving things forward. But I also believe in taking people's basic needs and concerns and putting them first. Because we're not going to be there to pay their light bills and their gas bills when they start levying our taxes. So we need to make sure that when we do this, we take all of those things into consideration in reference to our residents, our single parents. I was just raised by a single family home, put through Catholic grammar school and high school and college. So it was very difficult for my mom. So I'm not speaking to something I heard, I'm speaking to something I've lived. So, and being out and seeing what's going on, yes, I want to make sure that the children are off the streets. I want to make sure that the children are not violent and they have programming put in place. But we need to figure out and make sure that if we do this, it's going to be okay for everyone in the community, not just the children, the seniors, the single family homes, the new homeowners in the community. It's a lot of homeowners. So you have to ask yourself, is their budget going up according to what we want to do with a levy of their taxes? Are they used to owning a home? Are they going to be able to stay stable in their homes with us constantly increasing the taxes? We have to take the people and put the people first, not our own personal preferences. Children don't work. My children, my baby's 16. She does not have a job. I have to pay for nails, hair, and all that wonderful stuff. Only girl. So my thing is that we have to take this into consideration. So I just hate that it can't be more conversation prior to the vote, but we need to take all of these things into consideration prior to the vote. Thank you.
Question for you. I know the assessor was brought up. I do know I have talked to the assessor because my taxes went up this year. And she was basically saying, like the mayor has said, that because the property values are going up, it's going to go up even more because last year during this COVID time period, it was this big boom. It was a buyer's market, right? So that truly affected the taxes, and it's going to affect it again for next year. Did you take it to, have you talked to the assessor about that, on what the potential increase is going to be when it comes to this as well? Was that taken into account, or were you just based off of what it is now?
It's based on what it is now and what the expectation is for this 21 levy and what's coming up. Because we don't even talk to the assessor, we don't have those answers yet, and that's why Cook County is so, the treasurer's office is so far behind right now because they're still trying to figure everything out. So they wouldn't be able to really give us the answers to that yet. So all we can do is really just do our best estimate based on what the current circumstances
are. So right now, but like you know that they did say it is going to be a projected increase, a higher increase than normal.
Right, your property values go up. I mean, yeah, it's a vicious cycle. You want your property values to go up for your community, but that also on the flip side means that you're going to have higher taxes.
Right, so that number, that amount based off of that 180,000 and the 40 and the 60 will be higher based off of the what they said.
This is like the based on based on the 21 levy. So yes, the 22 levy, if it goes up, then those numbers would go up. This is based on what your current EAVs are, what the current breakdown of the sample bills that we compiled, say what the most current bills look like.
Right, just wanted to make sure to bring out that if, for instance, this referendum does get passed, and next thing they know, they see instead of the what you said, 261.
Yeah, the 212. Yeah.
461, and you'd be like, what happened? They'd be like, well, we don't have anything to do with your assessed value increasing. So I just wanted to make sure that could be something that they could see.
Yeah, so, and that really would, and you know, The difference on there is for every $60,000 increase in your value, it would be about $70. So if your value went up from, you know, 60,000 up to 120,000, you know, every time it goes up, that's what it'd be, about 70,000.
And that's at
for every 60,000, yeah.
Your base.
I want my property to go up.
Right.
So you said, just based on what you were saying, they had no control. In the last paper release, it says local taxpayers spend more than $270,000 on park district conferences. This is what I'm talking about, control. They've got all these different residential areas that have park districts. They went up and they just went crazy at the conference. And they just went and they had a report and they're talking about, and they reported this out, how they're abusing. So this is what I'm talking about when I say control. We can control, the mayor can control and say, hey, you park and rec people, you're not going to this conference, you're going to go to IML conference, okay? Opposed to them going out spending $200,000 per person to go out to these conferences. This is what I mean as far as control. We have no control of what they want to do. Whatever their park district wants to do, they're going to do it. That's my concern. And I'm for the children because I was one of the greatest donors to our park and recs when they came there. So it's just a concern of my money, and that's what I like. I like my money, and I like to keep most of my money in my pocket. It has nothing to do with that. I'm for the children and the seniors, but this is just, I wish we had a meeting, Mayor, earlier before the referendum, because basically when you're doing a park district, you're supposed to have a board meeting. You're supposed to work this out. We didn't have, I don't know if we did have it. We didn't have any. We should have had one, and it would have been a lot better. I don't think the protest would be as strong if we understood. When you give people, when you know better, you do better. When we don't know, we don't know.
And Joe, let me say one more thing. I wish that in University Park, we could have a civil discourse, a civil, I'm going to respect you, because I have my own ideas, you have your ideas, and then whatever the best idea is,
it's a pizza. Everybody can bring something
that's
to the
what
table.
we're going to do. That's called a plan. Now listen, so everybody want to bring up the library. We have a lot of stuff. Hold on.
Okay,
we built an extension onto our library. It took us 2 years of planning to build that, just for one big room. 2 years.
I understand.
I just have one question. I'm done. Thank you. For the initial, if the referendum was passed, the initial board, how does that get, is that something that is appointed?
That's elected by the people.
The initial board is going to be elected by?
Everybody is elected by the people, from a park district commissioner to the park district board.
Right, I know.
That is no appointments from the government or anything. That's its own separate entity, and those people will be elected by the constituents of the community.
But not
for the initial.
Right, the initial one, you have the right to know. What I read, you have the right to appoint that board. This one, after that, they have to elect.
It's either or. They can absolutely have the option, and I wouldn't put the appointment on me. I would want the people to decide on who they want to run their park and recreation department.
Okay.
This isn't about forcing an agenda, what the mayor wants. This is about giving the opportunity for the residents to come out and get what they want, you know?
People can't decide until you have an election.
Right.
So what about the time period between the referendum and an election of a board?
You have the right.
You have the right.
That's right.
Okay. I'm not denying that.
That's what it says.
So listen, to sit here and do absolutely nothing is just something I just can't do. And it's just that time. You know, we have to continue moving forward. I'm just looking at moving forward progress. We have to invest in our, if we don't want to make an investment in our own communities, in our own children, in our own singers, in our own homes, why are we here?
Man, that's not the point. We want to do that. We did the occupancy.
But then I would ask you, Ms. Covington, for your support. Everything, you know what, entrepreneurs have a different cycle of mindset, business people have a different, but at the end of the day, if it's beneficial for our residents, and we can give back the constituent service that they've been deprived of for over years and years and years again, then it's that time. It's just that time. And again, this isn't something that I can say to the gavel, and you know that yourself, to say that this is what the mayor wants. This is a public forum to educate our residents on the best interests of the community for growth and development, and let the taxpayers go to the polls and cast their ballot.
I didn't even get a notice for this meeting. It was word of mouth.
Okay.
So how come I didn't get a
Well,
notice?
listen, I'm not the communications person, and there's obvious communication gaps. It just didn't happen this time. It's been going on probably since I've been in office, since 2005. There has always been a communication gap. But collectively, if we work together, we can solve that communication gap and come out with a universal form that has everyone. Apple can do it, everybody. I'm not opposed to that. And there's not a person in here that I have denied a meeting that wants to sit down and talk about the pros and the cons of it. I'm very aggressive because I know when the time is now, the door of opportunity doesn't always stay open. When that door opens, if you don't get in, guess what? You're going to be locked out and the people are going to be deprived again. We just deserve better facilities, qualified people, and it's just that time. And I just want to say, in closing, we thank everyone who came out to just get an educational forum. This is an educational forum for our residents to know what's best in our future. So thank you for your time. The village will be sending more informational facts out, not saying one way or another, but residents, you can look forward to getting more education and more information about an upcoming Park District referendum on November 8th. The one good thing is that we encourage everyone to get out and vote. It doesn't matter, but just come out and cast your ballot because your voice is without it. Thank you so much for everyone who came out to participate and attendance for our meeting. Thank you. Good afternoon. Have a very prosperous weekend, and thanks for coming out. Goodbye.
I just said you wanted to say something. She sure did. I said your trustee want to say something.
She acknowledged me. I just want to say I apologize for being late. I'm just, you know, when it comes to the Park District, I just wanted to be known that I was very clear from day one that in 2018, we took this budget and we had, the Park District was already, or excuse me, the Park and Rec was already in malfunction with the animals and everything that had happened. And what we did as a board, we temporarily banned the Park and Rec to take the $750,000 that would go to the Park and Rec and use it to pay down the debt that was in this village. So that's almost $1 million. That we did. Not only we did it, but it reflects, once again, in the 2018 audits, this village paid $1 million down in debt. So my thing is that when it comes to talking about where or what we had all this time, we had $750 budgeted. When it came to Parks and Recs, because of what we were spending of the past, we did the best we could. And from here forward, my position is that we bring Parks and Recs, but we first get our house in order. Let's not forget, we had a Parks and Rec where they had their own staff, they had the animals, we had our own daycare, we had everything at Regal Farm. I just want everyone to be aware that the only reason why we took Parks and Recs and sat to the side, number one, you need somebody competent to run that. And that was not happening. For somebody to come in and say that it started past 2017 would be a total lie. The only thing I can tell you is that what we do is we need to have our fiscal house in order, and we can still do the things that University Park has been doing for the longest. And if you want a park district that is your preference, it's just with me, I'm saying it's a village that always can make things managed. We did it in the past. We can do it for the future. Thank you.